Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Sam Kern. We warmly welcome the family of Warrant Officer Bertram Forbes Webber, whose story will be told shortly by Major Daniel Webber from the Australian Army, who is Warrant Officer Webber's grandnephew. This evening, we also warmly welcome Group Captain Alan George, retired, representing the Australian Air Force Association. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Return and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Club Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of the ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family, visitors to the memorial, and students on behalf of Heritage College, Lake Macquarie, from Morisset, New South Wales. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was a vision of Charles Bean, Australia's first official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops in Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through the end of the war. The idea of the National Memorial and Museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried far away places. This would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and that what they'd done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honor, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who gave their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths of floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Warrant Officer Bertram Forbes Webber. Bertram Webber was born on the 17th of November 1921, the oldest of 4 children, born to Bert and Jean Webber of Texas, Queensland. Bert's father had served in the Australian Light Horse during the First World War and referred to his eldest son as Digger. Bert attended state school in Texas until his father took up a position as a relief stock inspector at crossings along the New South Wales-Queensland border. The family lived from a tent at numerous sites along the border area, but Bert went on to complete his education at Brisbane Grammar School, after which he grew tobacco at Callabala in New South Wales. Bert's mother died of cancer in 1941, so the family moved back to Texas, where they lived with relatives. Bert enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force Reserve in Brisbane in March 1942 and was called up for the Citizens Air Force after his 21st birthday later that year. He trained as a navigator under the auspices of the Empire Air Training Scheme. After completing initial training at Sandgate in Queensland, he went to Air Observer School at Cootamundra in New South Wales, Bombing and Gunnery School at Evans Head, Air Navigation School at Parkes, and General Reconnaissance School at Barnsdale in Victoria, before embarking for England to join RAF Bomber Command in November of 1943. As a qualified navigator, Bert was posted to number 27 Operational Training Unit at RAF Lichfield in Yorkshire. He joined a night bomber crew and was trained on the Vickers Wellington medium bomber. The crew were then trained on the Avro Lancaster bomber before being posted to number 467 Squadron Royal Australian Air Force, based at RAF Waddington in October of 1944. By then, Allied forces had landed in Normandy and were seeking to cross the Rhine. Number 467 Squadron supported these operations, bombing German road and rail junctions. They also hit the V1 and V2 rocket assembly and launch sites before returning to area bombing German cities towards the end of 1944. Berlin, Hamburg and Dresden were frequent targets during this time. On the night of the 2nd and 3rd of February 1945, Bert's aircraft, Lancaster Papa Bravo 306, call sign J for Johnny, failed to return from a nighttime sortie over Karlsruhe. Extensive cloud cover over the German city rendered the raid ineffective, and none of the bombs dropped by the raiding force landed where they had hoped. Of the 250 aircraft that participated in the raid, 14 Lancasters were declared missing. No further news was received concerning the fate of the aircraft or any of its crew members. So in October of 1945, the Air Ministry determined that Bert and the 7 other crew members on board J for Johnny that night were presumed to have been killed in the early hours of the 3rd of February 1945. The RAF and Dominion Missing Research and Inquiry Service later determined that J for Johnny had been brought down by a German night fighter near Karlsdorf, killing all on board. The remains of the crew members were buried at the Karlsdorf churchyard. Aged 23 when he died, Bert Webber now rests in Dernbach War Cemetery in Bavaria, Germany, alongside the other crew members of J for Johnny. An epitaph written by his grieving family appears on his headstone. His duty fearlessly and nobly done, forever remembered. Bert Webber is listed on the Roll of Honour to my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Warrant Officer Bertram Forbes Webber, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for reading of the Ode and signing of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozier or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses, barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support for the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a pleasant evening.